though, by the way, as we can continue on talking about this. So both of these teams are in the bottom 4, and one win here would move Obey up to 5th. That's how close it is.
It's the case where all you're trying to do is not finish dead last.
Yes.
However, that's difficult considering how high the competition is in the bottom 5, give or take. Now, here we have the bands that have finished out, and it looks like we're going to be playing Villa as this match.
Villa has seen a bit of a rise in its play rate. DreamHack Montreal had quite a lot of Villa, which is probably the best look that we've seen of it. Kind of quiet on Villa in Pro League after that. Quiet in U.S. Nationals as well. Quiet to a certain extent in a lot of the Challenger leagues too. So I mean, it's a map that has, I think, a lot of potential, but it hasn't really been realized yet. It took a couple seasons for Coastline to get to the position it's at now. Same with Border. It took a couple seasons for Border to get to the position it's at now. There's a chance that Villa might never get there. Maybe to a lot of teams, it won't be the preferred map that they want. But we're still too soon to when Villa got released to, I think, really make that judgment call.
Community vote. You make the judgment call. Who's going to win? And on the note of Villa, neither team has played this season so far. I mean, in the regular season, that is. So this is going to be something a little bit new for both squads. Obey, though, taking the vote 60% to Mouse's 30%.
That is actually quite a surprise. I anticipated that being a little closer. I know that Obey is a much, I would say, one of the biggest fan bases in North America. So it wouldn't surprise me much that Obey is able to do well in almost every single poll, regardless of whether they're heavily favored or, heavily betted against. But, I mean, Mouse and Obey have been two pretty even teams. I'm surprised there's that much of a difference between them.
You know what's actually kind of interesting? Both of these teams, over the last 2 weeks, beat Cloud9 and drew against SK. Both of them. Yeah, it was SK a draw for Obey in 2 weeks ago, and then it was a win against Cloud9 for Obey a week ago, and then 2 weeks ago a win for Mouse against Cloud9, and then a draw against SK 1 week ago. So, yeah, these teams are both on pretty much the same path right now. While they do have a difference in the standings, it is tenuous, and you could change at the flip of a coin. So we'll see which team is going to put themselves forward as the better squad in just I guess a few minutes, but wow, I mean, they're both on the uprise right now.
And both teams have had pretty decent results outside of Pro League over the last little while. I mean, Obey right now in U.S. Nationals sitting in the semifinals. They're 1 win away from guaranteeing themselves a spot going to the U.S. Nationals land. Obey also made it to the quarterfinals at the Paris Major, I think defying a lot of people's expectations, made it out of their group, and probably gave us the most exciting matchup of the entire quarters, semis, and finals in their 2-0 loss to Rogue in the quarters. As for Mouse, well, Mouse had a bit of a disappointing result in the U.S. Nationals on Friday. They lost out to Cloud9. They will have to come back in the third part of USN to try and get a spot at the LAN finals, but they did make it into the playoffs. The quarterfinals at DreamHack Montreal. Once again, I think defying certain people's expectations. So both these teams have had some shows of success over the last couple months. Who's going to have it here?
So Maverick and Lion, the two attacker bands. We will see Maestro also go. Maestro, of course, great for that indirect denial. On a map like Villa, he is very powerful. But I think the Lion map, or Lion band, the most influential of all of those. Of course, we did see in the previous match, Noble versus EG, Lion was left unbanned, and he did so much work for Noble. Despite them not being able to get any rounds, still very powerful. Now, looks like we're going to have Aviator as the first site, which stands to reason. It's what most teams typically go to first. Sometimes we'll see Trophy first, but it's usually Aviator, then Trophy, then down to the Kitchen. Those are the three on Villa that we've been seeing played thus far. Not many teams exploring over to the other area, the living room, I want to say.
Living room library, I believe it is.
It's that's exactly it is. Very nondescript rooms, but also the fact that they're very rarely played.
I mean, that room in particular we see so infrequently. This Aviator games, which is what we're on right now, typically revolves around a Mira being played, especially when we see it played outside of Pro League. Now, note that Mira is not banned. It's Maestro and Clash who are banned on defense.
Yeah.
Obey actually, quite humorously, banned Grimsky by saying no Maverick and no Clash. No new content for you whatsoever. We'll go to the newest map in the map pool, but we're not going to play those operators.
I mean, that's totally fair. Both Maverick and Clash right now, I think, kind of have a little bit of a heated debate about where they stand in the map.
I think they're in a pretty good place in the sense that you can use them in most circumstances.
Yeah, but
they are very strong.
Some teams are very uncomfortable playing with them or
absolutely.
against them.
And I mean, Lion is the same. I mean, there's a lot of comfort bans as well. Look at Ying, for example. We're seeing here mousesports. Usually, a good strategic ban against mousesports is to take Ying out against Vandal, or possibly take Pulse out against Beastly. We've seen that happen in both previous weeks, but neither of those operators are banned.
The only strategic ban that I really see out of all of these right now is Maestro. The rest of them, you could chalk up to comfort. Not wanting to deal with Maverick opening up walls silently, not wanting to deal with Clash delaying your push, not wanting to deal with Lion just making you stand still. I mean, these are how the bans played out. Maestro, the only one that really seems to me like, hey, we don't want to deal with this on a tactical level. But all that said, going into the round, Mouse have been clearing out the bottom. They're clearly trying to play from below. They do have that buck on Vandal. It's going to be a very powerful operator in this site. A lot of that floor is destructible.
And a minute in it, this seems to be a lot of reservation from Obey right now, who've been playing much more tight-knit as a team, I think we've seen over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The first point of contact for Mouse is going to be Vertical, who, kind of interestingly, is playing a blitz. Now, Vertical is usually often competing for top fragger here, and Hyper, who usually tries to match him, peeks around the corner and just gets obliterated by Skies with that MPX all the way at the end of the hallway, playing under 90. That is a tough loss for Mouse, as Skies walks away from that with only losing about 25 to 30 HP.
That was about a perfect head-level pre-fire from Skies, and there's no way he could have known his opponent was there unless there was a camera, but the pre-fire did win out, so props to him for that. Vandal's going to even it out, though, and my man will be eliminated from below. That vertical play, as we talked about, so influential on this site. Here comes the push from Vertical, and he will be forced back by the gas canisters. So one used up smoke, but luckily for Mouse, they still do have 3.
Yeah, lots of
or
smoke.
More.
Lots of smoke utility here from mousesports.
Yeah.
They have 3 because they've got Beastly playing on the Jackal, but Vertical, who tossed out his own smoke, as you mentioned, received a smoke in kind from Bosco as he tried to trudge in and he fell off. It's for Obey, though. The story at the moment is that they've lost quite a bit of health. Bosco, Adam, and Skies have all lost a lot of their life, and now Skies will lose his completely. I think Vertical anticipated that he'd be able to collapse on the site, but Benji gets him from inside a vault, and Adam picked off, and what little was left of the Legion, gone to Vandal. Only 30 seconds left, and a 2v2 will find Vandal now just watching in towards the vault. Also sights trained from England there. Vandal will try to flick across to Bosco, but get downed in the process, leaving England to try to possibly get the plant. And there you have it. The plant will go down quite successfully, actually, but Bosco's last man alive as Benji gets downed. And hard work for the smoke here. So, they managed to take out Vandal, but still Beastly and England up. Bosco needs to read the situation correctly. Pre-fires through the door, but he doesn't have very much health left. He's almost 1 bullet, and as he tries to dare through the doorway, you're going to hear the rattle of that C7E of Beastly go right over his head. Onto drones they will go, and Beastly still holding that tight angle. The Hibana's head almost given away. A mark will come out, but Bosco can't connect with those shots. Diffuser at 1/3 of the timer remaining. Only a couple seconds left for Bosco to be able to pull off a miracle. See the Hibana of England pushing through Vault. Shotgun from Bosco cannot connect, and England will manage to finish that one off. Both former members of Elevate, but it'll be England who gets the last laugh with the Type 89. First round goes to Mouse.
I think a big part of that attack for Mouse, the reason they were able to get success out of it was because they had the vertical pressure from below. Vandal doing so much work and forcing the defenders into positions they did not want to be in. For example, the Valkyrie in the main hallway out of the site. That's not a great anchor position, and that's why Beastly was able to sweep up from behind on the main stairs and get the kill. That's another thing, though, for Obey. You touched on how conservative they were playing, and it's kind of counter to what they how they used to play. I definitely agree with you there. And the fact that they didn't have a astronomy roam, a master roam, somebody to lock down that area of the map, opened up the playing field quite a bit for Mouse. Because then, yeah, hey, we can just push Beastly up the main stairs. or the middle stairs. Technically speaking, actually, if you go into the map, the side stairs are called the main stairs. Yeah, the ones over by study are called main stairs on the other end of the map. But anyway, a little bit of a tangent there. The coordination from Mouse was impeccable, but it was because Obey left themselves open to it. They did not lock down anything. They simply waited in their sight for the push to come, and Mouse had all the right tools for that situation.
Yeah. I like that you noted the vertical pressure, because that's something that we see on Villa that doesn't always get explored all that often, is that most of the floors in almost every single site are fully destructible.
You know, we saw the same thing on Border for a long time.
Yep.
And the same thing on Coastline for a long time. It takes time for teams to figure out where they can really put the pressure vertically, whether it be from below or above. And, yeah, they're starting to figure it out on Villa.
And I mean, one of the teams that I think really explored the amounts that you can go to with vertical pressure was Millennium, if you can give them credit for, especially Aces in particular.
Definitely.
Playing on Ash, being very precise with those Ash charges to be able to blow open the floor and cause a lot of discomfort for everybody he played against. And I think that right on its own was quite revealing for a lot of teams to know that Ash isn't really an operator who's known for her gadget usage. She's primarily a very thin 3-speed who can just rush in and kill people with a pretty good gun. But those breaching rounds that she shoots, they open up pretty big holes in the floor, and if you don't have a buck available for you or a frag grenade available, she can work pretty well in a pinch.
She definitely can. On the note of Ash, we saw in the last round, Hyper was eliminated early on, and he's yet again going to be the first into an engagement. Well, despite that early elimination for Obey, Mouse still took the round, and if Hyper's able to do some work here, will it be even more of a victory for Mouse is the question. They have a well-organized attack here coming from the Master and Main Hall. They have Jackal on the back of Main Hall to hold down the flank. Maman will be that flanking Jaeger, and Skies as well playing down by the kitchen. So there's a lot more roam potential here for Obey in this round, but they're already starting to use a lot of that anchor utility, the gas canisters, the yokai drones, the Legion traps to slow down this Mouse push. And Mouse are just wading through it.
And there was a somewhat of a misplay by Adam as he tried to go for the impact trick onto that hard wall, the reinforced wall that you saw him throwing the impact grenades on. The X-Karos from England were too low for that impact to hit, and Adam expended both impact grenades so that by the time the second round of X-Karos came, that could have possibly been taken out by the impact grenade. It was a little too late. Vandal as well as Vertical will be able to capitalize, and Benji on his drone is completely out to lunch. Diffuser goes down and Obey will lose 2 before being traded right back. Bosco ends up pulling out a kill somehow as he vaults into the blitz. And Beastly taking out Maman means that it's 2v2. A third of the Diffuser will go, 2/3 left. And Beastly going on a drone. I like this about Mouse, that they're saving drones into the later half of the round to be able to use them post-plant. England will try to take an engagement through the open Hibana holes, and they'll double up on him. He can't really control the bearing as best as he can. He'll take out Skies, goes for a double potentially, but I don't think they know where Bosco is. England will manage to get the double kill. Great plays from England in the last 2 rounds for his team in the post-plant, getting the plant down and then being able to get the frags needed too. With the Type 89 first round and the Bearing 9 the second. That's 2-0 Mouse.
So first, I like that Obey chose to go to their secondary site instead of trying to stick it out on Aviator, as they were unsuccessful there. But the coordination for Mouse in that round was impeccable. They had everybody exactly where they needed to be, and the push was not rushed in the slightest. I have to give massive props to Mouse for that. I love their use of the Jackal playing on the middle stairs and cutting off the rotation of the roamers and denying any potential flanks from just that one position, allowing for his teammates to push 2 from Master and 2 from the Main Hall. And because they were squeezing down on 3 anchors with 2 roamers far afield, those roamers unable to really do anything, the anchors just started falling apart one at a time. And despite those being probably the optimal anchors, operators in that situation, the Echo, the Smoke, the Legion, that's basically perfect trio to hold the site. It didn't matter in the end, and Mouse still were able to lock them down and make the push happen. So, 2-0 mousesports. They're looking very strong on Villa, clearly well practiced here, and they will be going back to an attack on the Aviator.
Aviator in games on this side of things, and still yet, Obey will not pull out the Mira on you, when I think it could probably pay some pretty big dividends here for Obey.
You know, I think the reason people aren't bringing the Mira, and this is just speculation, but if you lose those Mira windows, you're so exposed.
Yes.
I mean, and on top of that, you have to expose yourself to even use them in the first place because you have to leave 2 walls unreinforced.
And the other thing, too, is that even though we don't see Twitch having the pick rate that she has in previous seasons, as was noted in the very first round, those floors are destructible. Very easy for them to blow open that floor, shoot through it, and get the Mira. Similar to what we see on the armory wall inside of Border, if you can play underneath inside of ventilations and shoot open that floor by the front door,
yep,
you can take out the Mira window with pretty big ease. And I think you nailed it when you say that, yep, if you lose the Miras, you find yourself at a pretty big disadvantage, more so than a lot of other sites.
Yeah, so just reinforcing the walls, seemingly the strategy for Obey. It didn't work out for them the first time, but here we are, attempt number 2. And Mouse will be seemingly attacking very much the same that they had in the previous attack. Just taking control over Study because they know they can, because there are no Mira windows. Once they have control of Study, also applying pressure from below using those shotguns and grenades. And then looks like we're actually going to see England try and open up the wall into B. Now, there is an impact trick set up, but if you make the Hibana Excaros prone level, the impact will not hit them. So, nice angle opened up here from England.
And there you go. Adam only used 1 impact grenade there, so if there is another round that goes, very likely that the explosive radius from the impact will actually be able to get them.
Yeah, and England is going to go for that second one. Impact is ready. Hasn't gone out yet. He's waiting for his opportunity. Here we go. As they detonate, he will seemingly get a few of them, if not all of them. It sounded like he maybe got all of them, but we can't quite tell. Yeah, they're all gone. So great job there from Adam, but England still has 1 more charge, and the wall will be opened up further.
No way to go in through it unless you go on your belly, as neither of those are aligned. Adam, who was able to get the 1 round of Excaros, will also take out Vandal. That was the Buck playing below, so that verticality we mentioned goes completely back in favor of the defenders. Keep in mind, for any would-be attackers, that when you open up those lines of sight, they go both ways.
Yeah, and that's Adam being proactive right there, which is exactly what Obey needs, considering how little their presence is off-site. They still do have those roamers, though, in play, and the main hallway hasn't been shut down yet, so Mouse has something ahead of them. 30 seconds left, though, and Mouse are pushing the attack into the site. The flash from Vertical will net a kill onto Benji, so great job. Great use of that bandit shield, or sorry, blitz shield, but it's not going to matter as Bosco comes from behind. Where's the rest of Mouse? Hyper will get Skies, but the rotation from behind was really a mistake. Bosco gets another kill. That's his second. England goes down. Hyper will shut him out, but only 8 seconds for Hyper to find 2 more. As he peeks into Bar, they're not going to give him the opportunity, and he will be finally eliminated. Obey take their very first round, and it was an interestingly disjointed attack from Mouse compared to what we've been seeing from them so far.
Yeah, I mean, Mouse had a lot of things working in their favor there, and Obey did seem to be getting clamped down on quite well, especially with Benji getting just absolutely crushed by the blitz inside of Vault. But I don't think they were anticipating that Bosco was going to push up into the Vault the way that he did.
Yeah, he came from the main hallway, which that's the big difference maker. Obey and their previous attack there shut down the main hallway. This time, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy that they're working is nice to watch. I mean, it's not often that you see Mouse perform and execute surrounding a shield. And they're not even really using Vertical to get the plant down. They're just simply using him as a bit of a bruiser to walk in and make it so that Obey can't push through certain doorways. They get cut off and have to try to engage a blitz. I know there's a lot of teams that really don't like playing against shields in Pro League. It seems to be a common theme among many pro players.
Yeah.
But I would be hard-pressed to find a team that probably hates shields more than Obey does. And I think that there's probably some thought process behind that pick from Mouse. I mean, heck, even look, Obey even banned a shield on defense just to go out there and give you a point of a little bit of perspective here for them. So who knows? Maybe that's the reason behind it. It does seem a little strange to be taking Vertical off of the more flexible fragging roles that we see him on, playing on possibly Zofia or IQ, and instead relegating him to Blitz. But I mean, it might not be him being relegated to that role if it's a reason to help the rest of the team. And they've, Hyper's been doing a pretty good job being able to get some nice snaps onto some heads there. So
that is as Hyper does. The reason, of course, he is on this roster, I think, is just how excellent he is as a fragger. And I want to see also, just a side note here, I want to see how Hyper progresses, because I feel like he's still got room to grow as a player, and I look forward to seeing his future.
Yeah, I mean, Hyper's still one of the newer players in terms of Pro League caliber. I think he plays his role and fulfills it quite well, though we haven't really seen a ton of depth, as you've said. He typically does fulfill that more one-sided type of role of where he frags and that's really it. I'd like to see him possibly flourish on other roles. I mean, look at Adam, for example, was known as a fragger for a while and then played more support-oriented roles, and I think Adam is a much more well-rounded player than he was when he started in Pro League a couple seasons back.
So, Mouse, again, very similar strategy. Isolate the south side top floor and then start pushing into the site. You can also do a good job of denying any roamers. You can see Vertical currently playing on the red stairs, but Beastly will occupy that role. And he's just going to sit here and deny the flank from Skies, from a man, for as long as he possibly can. The big difference maker here is that Skies is now playing on Pulse, which means he might actually be able to just deny the defuse plant outright from below. That is, of course, a soft floor above him, or soft ceiling. But that's up to Mouse if they want to try and hunt him down or not. I'm guessing they won't, because they haven't seemingly droned him out yet. They might not be aware of where Skies is playing, and they might not be aware that he's playing Pulse.
And there you go, from below. This is a big, meaty play, but he won't get the shield. No, the wall will stop the explosion, but Hyper will go down, and Skies, poised to possibly walk away with 2 there, will at least get 1. That's pretty good. He'll very quickly roll right back to site. He'll see the fact that, well, they've opened up some of the walls inside a master bedroom. Adam, a great shot on a vertical, shows his head. Ill-advised for the Blitz to drop his shield, and that's 2 of the best players on Mouse that have been taken out with 50 seconds to go. This does not bode well for Mouse, and looks like it's a good position, possibly for Mouse to, or Obey to possibly equalize. Mouse will lose another before trading Skies off, so the Pulse picks up his 2nd kill. Vandal very low on HP. It's basically just Beastly left at this point, who can still just kind of soldier on with only 30 seconds to go against 4 members of Obey. And my man creeping up the stairs. While he sees Beastly, he's down, and then Vandal will walk into a goo mine from Adam, credited with the kill. And that'll finish things off here with Obey. 2 good rounds in a row.
Yeah, so they lost on Aviation and Trophy, and then they won the 2nd time around. And I think a big part of that was Obey reading the Mouse attack and throwing a wrench into it. Well done to them, and by them I mean Obey. Mouse, on the other hand, they didn't seem to have any adaptation at all between their first attempts and their second attempts. It was all the same thing. That, while it looked really well practiced in the first 2 attempts, you gotta change things. You have to keep the ball rolling. You have to come up with something new. You know, have a secondary strategy to catch your opponent off guard, because Obey are good at adapting, and they have now, clearly. Now, because of that, because of winning on their 2 main sites, they will go to Kitchen as their 3rd and final defense. Well, their 5th defense, but their 3rd site.
Yeah.
Now, this site is the only one that we really see basement play into in the slightest. We'll see often the attack will come from the stairs, from the basement up into the little closet there. And that's pretty much the only influence basement has on any site outside of just housing roamers.
Yeah. I mean, Kitchen plays out so very interestingly, and usually a lot of it hinges around that strong anchor play, of which I know Obey tends to run with the Echo smoke combo, I know, more than anything. Of course, Maestro being banned is going to be a big impediment here for the defenders, because Maestro usually plays a very critical role on this site, very similar to the way that, you know, Mira makes Coastline so much better for defenders. I think Maestro has a very dramatic impact on the way that this map works in particular for the defenders. So we'll see how it works.
Hybert just looking to clear out that master area, and he does have the support of Vertical. The 2-3 speeds are still taking this very slowly. They want to be cautious as possible. A man is spotted out inside of Astronomy, which is a dangerous position to play, but he's just trying to slow things down and deny this vertical pressure from above that Mouse are keen to establish.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of Mouse stacked up all in one direction. not the band, but the look in place. One of the walls opened up that'll lead inside of Statuary, and you can see Mouse managed to take a number of, or a bit of ground away from Obey. Vertical trying to hunt down the Yokai drone, but he'll get pushed up by Adam, a man losing a lot of his HP, and that's Vertical also losing a lot of his HP, with Vertical just below 25. So Hyper just trying to round this opening, this giant chasm of a gap, and he'll miss his shots onto Skies. An uncharacteristic flick gone wrong for Hyper, and Skies, whose aim has just been on point. Same with Adam, who will also collect a kill for his team. But my man had very little HP left, and he'll fell victim to Vandal breaking open a window and then taking care of the Jaeger. But I mean, Jaeger's device is already down. That's just simply a fragger that's removed from Obey's roster, whereas Mouse will lose their two main and prominent fraggers. Though England has done a pretty good job of being able to get kills, despite his position on the team right now not being so much frag focused.
So Mouse have gotten the control they want upstairs, but at what cost? Bosco will be down, but it doesn't seem that Vandal saw the down itself. So Bosco might be retrievable, salvageable. No, says England as he pushes in through that hallway. That's a good angle established from the Habana Laundry. Powerful spot that is usually used quite a lot, but Mouse are going with a light touch scenario here. Skies will be lit up on the top floor, and Beastly finally finishes him off. You can see the odd sound there from Sky as he was watching the wrong angle. Now just the two anchors from Obey, and they're both stuck in the same corner. And as I say that, England will get another kill onto Adam, leaving just Benji in a 1 versus 3. And he does have some lit opponents, but it's going to be a tricky hold, and he's just trying to wait out that time as long as possible. You can see that Mouse are going for a rush strategy. They're aware of the Yokai drone presence, and Beastly will get that final kill. Benji goes down, and Mouse take the half 3-2.
That, to me, strikes me as nobody communicating to Benji on time. You've got a Yokai drone sitting in the room in which you're about to get pushed from, which is where we just saw Mouse storm in from, and Benji's looking at the other door.
I think the reason for that is just it's the lack of communication, probably a misunderstanding of where the push is coming from as well. But yeah, it should have been called out to him that, hey, all of your opponents are under your Yokai right now. So if there wasn't somebody sitting on that drone, I could imagine why that call wouldn't have been made, but then why isn't there someone sitting on the drone?
I mean, the drone got shot out. They had enough time to be able to get in. I mean, maybe the call was made. It did appear that for just a second, Benji had started to possibly turn. But at the same time, I mean,
it's a 1v3.
It's a 1v3. Even then, that MP5 suppressed, not going to be able to tear through two people that quickly. The Bearing 9, maybe the old Bearing 9, but this time around, I still think people are struggling to feel comfortable with its recoil and can't exactly be able to take multiple engagements with it with the same reliability that it used to have. So walking out of the first split, Mouse ends up working towards their goal pretty well. 3-2 right now.
They won every single first attack to a site. So they managed to Aviator, they managed to take Trophy and Kitchen, so all three sites. But on any second attempt, Obey had adapted and read the strategy from Mouse and were able to counter it perfectly.
Yeah.
But now we'll be moving to the second half, and Mouse will have their attempt at defense.
And their first defensive crack will go to Aviator as well. They'll bring a Mira this time, so we will see our favorite Spanish defensive operator, Milosh's favorite defensive Spanish operator, get brought up.
Mira, as talked about, can be very powerful on this map. Curious to see where the Mira windows actually go. There is seemingly an emphasis going to be put on that vertical pressure yet again, but this time from Obey, as they have brought the buck. All of the walls have been reinforced, as you can see from Mouse. They're just going to use the mirror window seemingly for information. Maybe a double mirror window strategy. We haven't seen a lot of double mirror window strategies. Those kind of died out in the meta pretty early on after Mira's release. They do happen. They're just a bit of an oddity. Now, definitely can work out well, though, for Mouse if they use it properly and if Obey are unable to counter it. Obey droning out very thoroughly the study and the main hallway, just looking for their prey before they actually make the push into the building, which is the right call, especially on a map like Villa. There's so many places to hide here.
It was noted, just taking a step away from that for just 1 second, it was noted by the scoreboard being up, as we came back into it, that the two typical frag getters for Mouse, both hyper as well as vertical, are actually sitting at the bottom of the scoreboard. And this is because Obey has been so good at roaming and being able to get the early pick, the opening kill. But it's from there where they struggle in the mid to later part of the round adaptation, and their anchor play really falls apart. Similar to Cloud9 in North America, as we've seen before. A lot of times if you can get past the roamers, the anchor play can't really keep up. That's what we seem to be exhibiting with Obey for the time being, exception being standout performances from Bosco. So we'll see now if the support roles can work their magic for Mouse on defense.
Sky's just looking to get those mirror windows, and he will get at least one of them. It's hopefully both of them have been opened at this point for Obey. The Habana X-Garo is actually going to be used on the other one, and the impact will miss. So that will open up both mirror windows now and allow for a easy rotation into the bar if Obey choose to use it. Mouse still have some roamers far afield, and Skies is aware of this, seemingly waiting for them to push into him.
And I mean, this is exactly what you noted, why that Mira strategy tends to be all or nothing, is because now they've lost both of those Miras, and there's really no aid to them. There's a lot of ground that they've opened up by taking out both of those Mira windows that Mouse are going to have to be on their back seat or back feet for. Still on the roam, Mouse have really not been discovered, and Hyper playing by 90 right now underneath the cam. It's been shot out, but there's a sight trained on him. They'll fall off, and Hyper with that carbine can rip through anybody. It's my man who's there. You can hear the telltale signs of Zofia. Just one canister of gas will go out, and Hyper will still manage to get the kill, and Beastly jumping into the fight, take out Benji, but Bosco is there to have his teammates back. Almost out of time, and Plant will need to go down. Can Bosco get it? Yes, he can, but oh no! England coming in with a miracle play! A double C4 from Vandal, and it's all up to Skies! Oh man, he'll be downed, and that will be Mouse getting the diffuser with great ease. Hyper celebrating, obviously a tremendous clutch, and Mouse will now go up 4-2 on a round that really, you could have flipped a coin to guess who would have walked away with that one.
I mean, when you come down to about 12 seconds, and it's still a 5 versus 5, yeah, it's up in the air. We don't really know what's going to happen. And it was just really a bit of a brawl there that Mouse managed to win out. The setup, though, from Obey was well done. It took too much time, is the honest truth. There's not much more to it. They were trying to clear out the mirror windows, establish a push through the mirror windows into then the bar, but then there's still gas canisters in play at that point. You're trying to push with 20 seconds left. It's going to be complicated, and it's going to be chaotic. And it probably won't come down to the strategy at that point. It's just going to come down to who wins the brawl. And Mouse were in the better position there. I mean, no matter how you look at it, with only 20 seconds left, and that's when the push starts, the defense has the edge, especially considering how little that lane that Obey had been able to establish was. So a little bit too much focus on pushing in through study from Obey, too much time wasted, and Mouse just waiting.
I mean, England came so close to shutting that all down as well. He rounded the corner, and there was a member of Obey there able to cool him off, but that shotgun was one pump away from stopping the defuse in its tracks and giving it to Mouse without them having to deal with any post-plant scenario. As we saw, it doesn't really matter. Hyper was able to get that final kill and put his team 1 point away from a guaranteed 1 point in the standings, which would be huge for Mouse.
They definitely do need it, but so do Obey. That's the crazy thing about this match. Right? It's both teams really do need to get at least 1 point, but preferably a win. And Mouse are the first ones to really start streaking away with it. They did, however, streak away with it earlier. We saw them up 2 rounds in the first 2 rounds, and then they lost 2 in a row. So will we see that turn into a bit of sets, where you see now after Mouse winning 2, Obey get their own 2, and we're going to go all the way? Only time will tell. But we will actually have Trophy as the next site because Mouse were successful on Aviation. So the big difference, of course, is that Mouse won their first defensive round, which is counter to what Obey struggled with. Obey were able to win when they were allowed to adapt, when they were allowed to read their opponent's strategy and adjust accordingly. But Mouse set the tempo early in their defensive half.
Not having banned the Ying against Mouse might have been a smart idea here. Mouse never played Ying at all, but it's going to be Obey that's rocking it first and foremost. Also, Sky's taking an altercation, losing all but a tiny bit of his health with just about half of the round to go.
There's time for a reset.
It's time for a reset, but very deceptive round. Sky's also a little bit off the pace in terms of where his team is. Now, Obey over the last 2 weeks had been performing better in large part because of Sky's coordination with that team. They tend to struggle a bit more when Skies isn't exactly with the beat. If he can be there, it can obviously pay some major dividends.
He has been fragging through this match
yes,
very well, but I agree with you. I think definitely needs to be on the same page. Now, unfortunately for him, he will be detected from below. We talked about this basement housing one thing usually on this map, and that's the deep late roamers. And it's going to be Vertical, the one to come up from behind of Skies, possibly get a free kill here. One bullet is all it's going to take from that ump to eliminate the buck. But he just needs to have the timing be right. Skies is holding just in the corner there, as you can see, not wanting to expose himself. And it's a bit of a stalemate, but neither of them seemingly aware of the nature of the stalemate.
So, prone just over by the logs inside a pantry. That's the pulse of Vertical. Usually Beastly's role, but Vertical will play it instead. Great kill here from Hyper onto Skies. Not much left of him as Adam had gotten England earlier on. It's a 4v4. My man will find one. Beastly refrags. Diffuser goes down, and once again, Mouse will find themselves in a post-plant scenario. Can they be able to capitalize? But it's looking very unlikely. Is Benji able to get one? It'll put us in a 1v3 with Vertical now needing to return to site. A position that we see Pulses in quite often, playing below the site, hinging upon a great C4 placement. Now, this tremendously long barrel of Jackal, usually being spotted, but played very well and tightly to the corner by Benji. He will end up going down, but Bosco will be able to redeem his friend. There you are. Not even letting the pulse of Vertical back into the site, and we got ourselves a match. It's still 4-3 Mouse, but Obey is well within striking distance here.
If the trend is to continue, Obey will win another round, and we will go to 4-4. That'll be 2 rounds in a row for both team in sets. So, will they be able to do it? That attack strategy was kind of all over the place, but it was mostly focused on the Master. The big difference between Obey's attack to Trophy and Mouse's attack to Trophy is that they just stacked everyone in Master instead of trying the 2-2 strat where you're going to push 2 in through the hallway and 2 in through the Master. And that allowed them to be a little bit more, I guess, powerful when bearing down on the anchors. Because Mouse still had so many roamers, the anchors just unable to weather the storm. Now, Trophy going to be the attempt again from Mouse. So they don't want to go to the kitchen, it seems. And they still cannot go to Aviator.
Look at that scoreline from Mouse. Good versatility from the team. Obey a little bit top-heavy right now for the time being. Benji finding himself in a lot of precarious positions and unable to really contribute, I think, on the scoreboard, sure, but also a bit of a slow match for Benji in particular, not really being able to accomplish too much on defense when he was playing on the Echo role. Now he's been doing okay on attack on his job as Jackal, and this will be the 3rd round that he'll be playing that Jackal. As you see Obey running a pretty similar lineup. My man on that Zofia is pretty commonplace. It's Skies who's had that flexibility to play different operators, going from the Buck onto the IQ. And of course, after BC stepped aside, a bit of praise was given by Skies, tweeting that he aspires to be BC level of good on Buck at some point.
It's a tall task.
Probably at one point, I think you could have claimed that he was certainly, if not the best, probably in the top 2 of the best Bucks in the whole world.
Let's say Buck. I'd say BC has maintained top 5, no matter whether he's playing it or not. I mean, he's definitely gonna go down as one of those top Buck players for sure. Now, Mira being played here by Mouse. You can see they're going to be putting them facing the Master. So that's their change. That's what they've managed to adapt in this strategy, though. We may have brought it in the last round. We actually didn't really see much of that wall throughout the previous round, so can't really say. But they clearly are putting an emphasis on the Obey push from Master, which is rightfully so, because that's where everything happened last time Obey made this push happen.
Yeah, I'm curious to see Obey not running with the soft breacher from below. I mean, you know, you've got a Zofia who can work in that way. You've also got the Jackal with the ITA, and I know that a lot of people know that Jackal can't be Buck, but in a pinch, can use that shotgun pretty effectively. Now, speaking of, you've got my man playing below. So you do have that soft destruction there. Usually would be Buck's role in particular. My man just missing to eject the Mira. I don't know why he's pausing, possibly waiting for a call here. He's trying to get, there you go, he'll get it. And also looked like he was trying to get the Bandit battery, which he's not able to get.
He does still have, I believe, one more explosive life. No, it's all gone, all expended. So he's not going to be able to open up any more angles. Vertical, instead of roaming in the basement, will be roaming up top, just in the main hallway, looking to find his opponent. Skies is playing on IQ. The reason he's playing IQ instead of Buck is to hunt the Pulse. That's his main objective. Because the Pulse was so influential in the last round.
I mean, Vertical's playing a lot tighter towards the site, too. Look, you don't have him downstairs playing that level, like I said, that you see a Pulse often in, playing below the site. Gambling really heavy on being able to net yourself a fish when you go fishing with that C4. An abundance of flashes go out, and it's good time for Bosco to be able to get those X-Kairos down, and he'll open up a portion of the wall leading inside of Statuary. And from Master Bedroom, this is some control that can be exerted from Obey. My man's still downstairs. He'll have to try to get up the stairs, but won't be able to do so as Hyper is there to behead him, and my man will be the very first casualty. Hyper doesn't check his corners and walks right by Skies, playing downstairs. The IQ, as Skies will pick up a second kill now. C4 gets tossed out by Beastly. Adam gets one traded off by Vandal, and there you have it. Mouse with a lockout. Vandal picking up a second kill, and England being credited with the down. That's Mouse sitting at 5 rounds now on match point and guaranteeing Mouse 1 point here.
And Mouse have broken the pattern, and they reap the rewards as a result. Now, that defense, whether or not Mouse was aware of it, was perfectly set up to counter the Obey strategy. Now, they were clearly aware what they were doing with the mirror windows to try and deny the push from Obey into Master. But the bigger change in my mind was Vertical playing on the south side of the building instead of roaming basement, because that meant the IQ that Obey picked into, instead of bringing the Buck, was effectively useless. You saw Skies hunting for that Pulse for so much of the round, and he wasn't able to find him. Why? Because the Pulse isn't there anymore. And of course, Mouse can't possibly know to expect that, but they did adjust regardless of knowing it or not, and they wasted a lot of Obey's time because Obey was chasing something that didn't exist. So, massive props to Mouse for making that change happen, and also for being able to hold the site despite losing the mirror windows with relative ease from Obey. That pressure from a man downstairs, really well put out. Just didn't really matter in the end.
Yeah. Overall, you didn't really need my man. I mean, it was pretty huge for him to be able to open up that mirror, though.
You know what? I'm actually thinking about it right now. Take a look at how Mouse are putting the mirror windows down two right next to each other. We talked about how this strat is antiquated, really, and you don't often see it anymore. They also are aware of how much emphasis Obey are placing on the vertical pressure. It's very possible, in fact, you know, the way I'm seeing this, probable that Mouse are baiting their opponents into the mirror window. Think about the 2 times they've done a double mirror window strategy. Over by Master, it did bait Obey into those mirrors. They put a lot of time and resources into opening the mirror windows from below. And then, what did they do? They opened the wall next to it. They made the push happen through, right next to the mirror windows. And it did not work out. They got collapsed upon. The first time we saw it was the same way we're seeing it set up right now from Mouse, and it was the same thing. Obey went out of their way, spent a lot of time opening the mirrors, then pushed through the open mirrors, and it was a bottleneck. So either Mouse is aware of this, and they're deliberately trying to bottleneck Obey into this hole, or it's just working out in their favor.
I mean, it's a pretty big gamble to put that much utility in, though, to a bait, right? I mean, you could possibly put those mirror windows in a way that you're not necessarily baiting them if that's Mouse's strategy.
The reason I'm thinking this is because the rest of the setup from Mouse seems to be surrounding that bait. They're not really, they haven't been using the mirror windows, have they? They haven't been really putting too much pressure. I mean, they'll use them if they're still available, but as soon as they lose them, they just circle around them and point their barrels in that direction, and it's been working out.
You mentioned trying to bait them. Well, here you go. But Skies gets baited. As you said, Vandal is there just waiting and anticipating for them to eject one of those black mirrors. Well, they'll get one, but the other still stays intact, and Skies will be taken out of the fight. No longer in the fray. And with that, those 2 frag grenades also gone, which is very, very crucial, as those are the only frag grenades available for Obey. The second mirror, it looks like it will go, is just below. Xkaros goes off, and that manages to also eject the mirror window. The explosion taking care of that mirror.
It seems it might actually be still in play.
Oh, wow. They didn't actually get it. That is very strange. Just a touch too low, then usually those Xkaros would be able to get the black mirror. So that is a bit interesting that they must have been just an inch too short. They'll open up the rest of that reinforced wall so they can possibly go through a crouch as well to get it.
But look at this. 40 seconds left, and they're being forced into a tunnel of their own volition, and it's they have a man disadvantage as well because they lost the buck downstairs. So this is going to be a tricky push for Obey. The one big boon that they have is the smokes, and actually on top of that, the Ying Candelas.
And there you go. But they'll get choked out again. Excellent placement by England in that tight, confined area, and he'll get it down on it. Blind fire from Vandal as Adam goes down. Vandal's still there to greet anybody who possibly tries to go in through. The Vector does have a bit more recoil, can outduel Bosco, but Beastly able to take out Benji. Big flank here from Hyper. This could be a game winner. Hyper marches right in, takes it down, and oh my. Bosco charges in, but Diffuser not in play for Obey. And Mouse will take it 6-3. A great performance by Mouse. And they are within striking distance of that top 4 now.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that 4th place is at 14 points. Mouse has what? 10? So Mouse will now sit at 13 points. Very close to being able to get into the top 4. So Mouse on a bit of an ascendancy this latter half of the season. A disappointing result for Obey, who looked like they'd been making improvements and great strides here, falling victim to mousesports.
Yeah, they looked really strong in that match. The big takeaway, though, and I think the difference maker was the way they were using